Okay, so today's lesson, uh, the actual lesson is not as long as our usual lesson because what I have done is I have divided the entire uh, chapter. The chapter is called Unit for Measurement. Last time we were talking about, so the preposition of place, I will be introducing 3 preposition of place at the side, but the main premise or the main focus of the lesson will be on the conversation part, which will be the dialogue, but we will also try to include the lesson according to different uh, topic regarding the conversation. And so last time we were talking about the direction. We have already talked about different food. So the thing is that the actual conversation is similar to the way we have done the script. Uh, the only thing that needs to be addition to that is the names of the food that you can include there. Other than that, the entire conversation could, if it's about food, then this is the entire conversation. Now you may ask me like, how does just ordering food help us with the entire conversation? And the thing is that you have to compile everything that you have learned here, and then the things that you will learn further. So we will have conversations we will include conversations such as our day-to-day life conversation. We actually do have many of those things already included in our lesson, but we will have more and longer conversations, things about daily things that you can speak about, talk about. But the thing is that the most important thing for those is to improve one's vocabulary, which we are definitely doing by learning by memorizing the text the text on the spelling. It's also helping us with the vocabulary. So therefore, it's very important to be to increase those vocabulary so that we can continue making different we can continue learning different things to speak about. And like I said during the first time in our class, I said that the more important thing would be for you to use this particular line. And the best place to use this is in the group, because everyone is using particular these particular lines. Everyone is learning these particular lines. So you can either write them or you can speak them in the group whenever you have time. So, and if some of you have people with whom you can speak Tibetan, you can definitely use these lines and practice with them. The thing is, the more you speak and the more you practice these things, the more it will be with you, and the better you will shape the Tibetan that you will be speaking at the end of everything. So it finally comes down to the fact that you have to use these. Otherwise, it won't work. So therefore, please make sure that you're using it to either speak with people, and when you use these, definitely grammatically, there's nothing wrong with these lines, but most of them are inclined towards the written language that we have already spoken many times upon. So that would be the difference in the language itself, in the usage of language. But the thing is that since it's the written language, if you pronounce it quite clearly, everyone will understand this. So let us begin with today's lesson. So the lesson focuses on the measurement. So there are different things that we can measure. So it focuses on measurement. And we have the addition of those preposition of place. And then we'll also discuss a little bit about the usage of the particle yö, which seems to be having a little bit of confusion upon. Okay, so this is something that I tried. So trying to make it seem more to be more presentable. So okay, so the first person, Kangsa Tangbu. So in today's lesson, it's more about definitely we have prepared the script, so you can definitely take out some of those lines which will be important in your day-to-day conversation. But more importantly, we have certain words that we may want to learn. So okay, so the first line is first person, Kangsa Tangbo. Tashitele Tsiringla. So we have been familiarized with this particular line many times. So Tashitele Tsiringla means greeting, Tsiringla. So it's greetings to Tsiringla. So Tashitele Tsiringla. So the second person, sorry, let me just it seems that everything is Kangsa Tangbo. It's Niba, which is the second person. Okay, so so we will change it. So let me just change this. Very sorry for this. Okay, so Kangsaniba, the second person, Tashidele, Tashila, Kukamsan. So Tashidele, Tashila, Kukamsan. Tashidele, Tashila, Kukamsan. So greetings, Tashila. I wish a good health upon you. So we have the addition of the greetings. With the greetings, we have I wish you a good health upon you, which is Kukamsan. Tashidele, Tashila, Kukamsan. So the second person. Okay, so these two lines, we have probably been very familiarized with this particular two lines because we have been using them quite often. And most probably these two lines have already been memorized by many of you by the amount of time that it has been used in the dialogues or the script. Kangsa Tangbo Kukamsa. So we know that this particular word, ga, it means some. Ti means to us, and since this is in a future tense, so to you, we have already seen the usage of the other particle, tia. Definitely, it's in the spoken, it's in the colloquial system, but we tend to be more inclined towards the written. Therefore, tigu. Taringe siringlala chiwaka tiguyu. Kukamsan. Taringe siringlala chiwaka tiguyu. So we see it says, I too wish you a good health. And today I have a question to ask to you, Tsering La. So today I have a question that I have to ask to you, Tsering La. Kukham-san, Tsering nge Tsering La la chua ka tikyu yu. And normally you will hear things like Tsering kena la chua ka she yu, which is also correct. So therefore you can either say it in this way, or you can say it in a way that is Tsering kena la chua ka she yu. Okay, so lao, which is a more respectful and polite way of saying of course or definitely. Lao, yindang kuiki kengnu chinu chi lian shui yin. So in this particular sentence, we see that we have two particular. So last time we were talking about humilifics. So here we have two humilifics. The first one is ku, which is a humilific for I. So it's a humilific for the word I. And then we have the shu, which is humilific for the word to say, or to answer, or to say, or to speak. So it's a more, so the most apparent distinguishing factor between honorifics and humilifics, like we discussed, is the fact that humilifics are always addressed towards self, in a way that when you use these humilifics, you're not directly using a honorifics to honor someone, but to actually represent yourself to be more modest, in a more modest manner, so that so as a result to that, the other person towards whom you're addressing to is being honored. So it's an act, it's usage of word which makes you which represents you to be more down to earth, or to be more modest, in a more modest manner, so that in turn you bestow more, you give more respect and honor to the next person. So these are humilific, whereas honorifics are the word that are directly addressed towards the person that you are giving the honor, that you are giving this respect. So this is the most apparent difference between honorifics and humilifics. So this particular sentence that we have, okay, 1 minute. Lo. Okay. So for the okay, so the particular, so we talked about the difference between the humilifics and the honorifics. That is on the context of to which the particular word is addressed. The humilifics are addressed towards the to the self, to represent oneself to be modest, whereas the honorifics are addressed towards the other, to whom you want to give the respect to. So these two words are humilific, and you can see that these are used when the person speaking is addressing to themselves. So normally when we use the verb, normally when we are using the verb, we have verbs such as to eat, to speak. We understand that normally when we use these verbs, we don't use the honorifics when the person who is speaking is using this. So there are probably so there are three levels. The first one is the verb that you use to address while you're doing something, while you speak. And then you have the honorifics of these words that you use to address the other person that you want to give respect to. And then finally, you have the humilifics that you use towards people that you use in order to address to yourself as doing it, but in a way that you represent yourself to be modest, in a way that you give respect to someone else. So these are the three different levels of verb that you can use. You can either use a non-honorific verb to address as something that you are doing. Then you can either change it to a honorific to address to others when they're doing those things to give respect. And then finally, humilifics, which you can use to address to yourself in order to give more respect towards the other person by not directly addressing them with that particular verb. So in this sentence, we see there are two humilifics. So one is verb, other is a pronoun, which is ku, which is I, nga. Normally we say nga. So ku is a humilific. So here we see laho. Yindangi ku ki kongnu jinu ki kongnu jinu ji len shui yin. So of course I will try to answer it to my best ability or my best capacity to answer it. So I shall answer it to my best capacity. Lao, of course. So this is a more proper way or more respectful way of saying of course. Hindai kuigi konu jinugi or konu jinu chik. So you can either say ki or chik. So hindai kuigi konu jinu chik len shui yin. So I will try to answer it to the best of my ability or to my best ability. Okay, so this is the second person. Now, the first person. Nga tsu jala nyowa samrir tseshi ji dang samrir tseshi shen pechu chekin duk ang. So now we see that the sentences are becoming longer. And the reason why sentences are becoming longer is so that you can have a longer statement, not just to say that, oh, I am this, my name is this, or to say, I'm from here, I'm from there. Not only these type of short sentences, but now you can also have sentences which in by themselves are a sentence that comes from rather analysis or through analysis or through contemplation on a certain field. So therefore, now we're also introducing these longer sentences, which tend to have more elements in them, which tells us that there is things like analysis, there's things like observation, rather than simply speaking about things like which is a statement. A statement that is a statement which gives a single information. Now we're starting to introduce sentences which have more elements that tends to have things like contemplation, tends to have things like analysis. So therefore, these sentences becomes longer. So when we jala nyowa samrir tseshi ji dang samrir tseshi shen pechu chekin tukang. So it's not entirely a written language word. It is understood to be a spoken language, but still this particular word what it does is that it shows a form of closeness or nearness. So here we see that the person is stating an observation based on their own analysis. So the first person, Tashila, says, when we go to buy things, sometimes we use one unit of measurement, and in other times we use other unit of measurement. So we see that there is a form of observation and contemplation upon analysis of a certain thing. So the person has analyzed that sometimes they're using different measurement, and then in some one type of measurement, and in other times they're using a different form of measurement. So the form of measurement changes. So we see that here the person is stating with a certain type of contemplation or a certain type of analysis. So nga tsu chala nyowa samrir tseshi jitang samrir tseshi shen peju chekin tukang. So when we go to buy things, sometimes we use one unit of measurement, and in other times we use other unit of measurement. So this is the meaning of this particular sentence. So we see that there is an observation made here. So now we're not only stating those sentences which are merely statement of information, but now we're trying to include things like analysis and inquiry here in more longer sentence. So the sentences are having elements such as inquiry and analysis and observation. Okay, so one more time so that we can have so you can listen to the pronunciation. Okay. Chala nyowa samrir tseshi jikdang samrir tseshi shen peju chekin dukang. So when we sorry, I forgot that this particular function is, I don't know why this is happening, but let me just see if it works now. No, it doesn't. Let me just do this once again so that, okay, so what was the question? When is signified by wa in nyoa. Okay, so let's see if we can get the chat here. So I don't know why this is not working, but so the question was, when do we have the, so when you say signify, you mean the particular sound, I think. So wa sound normally happens when it comes as a companion word for a word, and it comes as it comes alone. So solely or alone, that it doesn't come with other prefix or suffix. It comes as a foundation of name without any prefix or suffix at all. And the second criteria is that it has to come as okay, let me just do this. Okay, so the question is when it is used in place of nyote or nyotu, right? So let me just take the, yes. So one, actually, it doesn't replace both tse or tu, because tse and tu are, it's a word that shows a particular time, like when you buy it. Nyowa is just a single word that means when you buy, or not even when, sorry. So when is more inferential here. So when is not a, so here you see when, right? When is not apparent here, it's just inferential. So it's not written here. it's something that you state with an inferential or inference. So therefore, we see that it is a different case. So it's inferential rather than being apparent here. And no, this doesn't give you the meaning when. Nyowa means to buy. Tsujala nyowa. So it's a single statement till here. Samrir. So therefore, when we buy things, so when is more inferential and not apparent. So wa is never replacing both of these. So therefore, it may seem that just that I have written wa and it may be uh, using it may be used in place of these, but no, this is a particular companion word that joins with nyowa and makes it an nyo, and it's just an addition which gives the idea that you are buying things. Lasso. So okay, now going back here. So nga tsu chala nyowa tsamrir tseshi jikdang tsamrir tseshi shen pecho chekin do ang. So kin we know that it's because in this so che it has to be ta. Sorry. Because it comes with present progressive term and present perfect term. So it's a perfect term, so therefore it's kin. It means that it was used, and it will be used for the time to come. So it's more like perfect tense. So now the second person says lare, which means yes, that's right. So that's right is also more inferential here. So sometimes the translation that you see here are inferential rather than direct translation. When I find it to be more useful to do it more inferential, I do the inferential. When I think that some things could be more better if directly translated without including unnecessary information, I do it directly. So therefore, some of these are inferential. Okay, so so shu, as we know, is a humal effect now. We have already established it now, that it's a humal effect. So therefore, even though we're using it in this case, it's a humilific form of a verb and can be used by the person that is speaking to address the action towards themselves. So, tseshi teso ngala deju naro kela washu or shu. So it means I request you humbly. So the request comes from this word, rewa, which means to request. And sometimes rewa is also hope. So if it's an action, then it's request. If it's a noun, then it's to hope. So rewa. This is to say like I request, and so not this. Let's just say like this. This is to say a request, whereas this is to hope for something to happen. So therefore, this is to request in verb form. This is the verb to do, and this is the noun hope. So to have hope, or to hope. That is the meaning of this particular phrase, whereas this means to request. Okay, so which is I request you humbly. Humbly comes from So humbly comes from the this word, that is shu. It's to shu means to either to say, to ask, mostly to ask. So I request you humbly. Which is I request you humbly. Deju means to clarify, to explain. It actually means to explain, but sometimes also to clarify, because clarification is an explanation. So therefore, I request you humbly to clarify on this. When we say this, which means these measurement. Lasso in the which is of course. Okay, so the first person. 방보 rinse 젤월 세시 강 배출 제기레탐. So 방보 rinse 젤월 세시 강 배출 제기레탐. So we see that we have the particle which indicates a question. So rinse means length. Rinse means length. Rinse 젤월 means to measure length. So 세시 is a unit. Seshi means unit. So we have many different units, right? We have many different units to measure with. So ringse jelwa means to measure length. So here we see that we have actually stated the term seshi, which is unit. But we don't have apparent, we haven't written it here. We haven't translated here. So instead of saying what are the, can you clarify on the units to measure the length? We have said, can you clarify on how to measure the length? Or what should be, what kind of unit should be used to measure length? So it's this is a more inferential translation of this line. So it says 당부 링체 젤월 세시 강 배주 제기. So 당부 링체 젤월 세시 강 배주 제기 레탐. I request you humbly, or I humbly request you for clarification on how to measure length. So how you should measure length. Okay, so I will repeat this one more time for pronunciation. 당보 링체 젤월 세시 강 배주 제기 레탐. Okay, so okay, so this actually is not the correct translation. I thought I had done it, but it seems that I have. So it is first, what is the unit used for measuring the length? So I was reading the wrong translation, but still, sometimes the mind has wonderful things to do. So even if I was reading the wrong translation, I was still understanding the above Tibetan sentence out of it. So anyways, first, what is the unit used for measuring the length? So 당보 means first. 당보 니pa. Whenever you have 당보 니pa sumpa, these 당보, which comes from first, which is first. So these are ordinal, which is in the order. So first, second, third. 당보 니pa sumpa, ordinal. So first, what is the unit used for measuring the length? So measuring comes from the word jelwar, and unit comes from word seshi. And peju means used. So what are the units used for measuring the length? So the second person, lasso. Chirtani pyo tumo mayimba kashi yopare. Which means, generally speaking, there are few units of measuring length used by Tibetans. So, tumo mayimba means uncommon. Tumumba means common. Tumo mayimba means uncommon, which are specified or which are just particular of a particular of a group of people. In this case, Tibetan people. Lasso, Chirtang means generally. So generally speaking, Chirtang Shena. So this word generally speaking, Chirtang Shena, means generally speaking. Let me just take it. Chirtang Shena means generally speaking. To speak generally. Chirtang Shena, which means to speak generally. So Chirtang means general or generally. So we see that here we have used this particular word, Chirtang. Chitani, Tumu Mayimpa. Tumu Mayimpa means uncommon. So maybe I should write these here so that you can use them later. These could be some of the words that you can use later. And this means uncommon or unique or special in some case, but not necessarily special. So Chutang means generally, and Tumu Mayimpa means uncommon. So things which are particular of a particular region, particular group of people. Kashe, as we have already discussed a few times, kashe means some. So we have this kashe, kashe, and ka, which all of which have same meaning, which means some. So there are some which are particulars of Tibetan. So the first one is sorkang, sorkang, pokang, trukang, kombakang. So these are four of the unit of measurement that was used that was used in Tibet. The main so the actual unit of measurement or actual technique or the unit or the establishment of these different unit of measurements were established during the time of the 14th king of Tibet, and his minister, one of the seven great ministers in the during the time of Tibetan dynasty. One of the seven great ministers, he was the minister of the 14th king, and he established these measurements. So therefore, these were the establishment of these were during that time. And so the first measurement, which is sorkang, is the, let me try to view it here. Century. Let me remember the century, because the problem is that even when you remember the king, some of the king lived very short. Some of the king have lived long. So the century is, I think it would be, I will check this, you see. because it's better if I check this. I will have to check this because it's better if I give you an answer that's definite and confirmed rather than giving you an answer which is not currently coming in my head. So I will give you the name of the king, the minister who established this, and then also the century. I will send it in the group. So so Sorkang is a breadth. So when we say breadth, it's the thickness of your finger. So thickness of one finger. Right now, when we think about it, most of the thickness of the finger differs, but that was the most reliable way of measuring the length at that time. So therefore, Sorkang means the thickness, not the thickness, yes, more or less like the width or the breadth of your finger. Not the length, but the breadth of your finger. So mostly 1 or 1.1 or 1.5 centimeters at most. And then the second one is tokang. And tokang is the length between the tip of your thumb and the tip of your little finger. So you have the tip of your thumb. So you have your thumb and you stretch that. It's not like you just keep it like this. You have to stretch all of your fingers apart as much as you can. And then there is the length between your thumb and the tip of your thumb and the tip of your little finger. And this length is known as tokang. Mostly when we think about it, it's more like 15 centimeters in length, depending on the size of hand, of course. And then you had trukang, which is the distance between the elbow, the base of your elbow, to the tip of your middle finger. Probably 1 feet. So that's trukang. And then kombakang means the length of each of your step. So the length that you can cover with one step is called kombakang. So sorkang, which is the breadth or the width of your finger, and then tokang, which is the distance between when you stretch all of your fingers, and the distance between your thumb and the tip of your thumb and the tip of your the little finger, the pinky, the little finger, that is tokang. Probably 15 centimeters, depending on the size of the hand, of course. And trukang is the different distance between the base of your elbow to the tip of your middle finger. Probably 1 feet, but still depends on the length of the hand, of course. And then kombakang is the length or the distance that you cover when you take one step. That too depends on the length of a person's feet and the distance they cover doing one stride or one step. Okay, so these are the four traditional way of measurement that I wanted to introduce: sorkang, tokang, trukang, kombakang. So sorkang, tokang, trukang, kombakang. So 4 of these. Now, on that, tadung gelchi tseshila chiletang meter or mi years. So tadung gelchi means international, so international unit. So tadung means upon that or on that. Tadung gelchi tseshila, upon that, when we talk about the international unit of measurement, chili tang mi so chili is the equivalent of a kilometer. So it's an equivalent of a kilometer, and mi or meter is equivalent of a meter. So these are not the traditional way of finding the distance. And during those times in Tibet, normally, like the large distance, when we say large distance, distance between uh, distance between two parts of Tibet. For example, let's say different distance between two villages, or distance between a corner village to the main capital. These were always and always measured in the duration of time it takes, either by foot or on horse. So the distance would always be like, oh, what is the distance between, for example, let's say this town to the main capital? And the people would answer like, oh, if you go by foot, it will be 1 month. If you go by horse, it will be 10 days. So that is the way that people used to measure it. So there is no form of traditional unit that measures these form. So the internationally accepted unit is jili, which is the kilometer, and mi, which is the meter. Okay, so tadung geji tseshila jile tang mi je. So upon that, during the international unit of measure, so the accepted international unit of measurement, the standard international unit, we have the kilometer and we have the meter. Now the first person, lasso, taha kosong katinche. Okay, now, now I have understood. Thank you. So the main thing that we have to understand in today's lesson is the some of these terms which we use for kilometers, for meters, and definitely the thing is that if you ask me that if I use this term, will everyone understand me? Definitely not everyone will understand you, because for some of them this would be new words, definitely. And mostly if you talk to the older people, you will find that those elder people, they will know these units. But many of the youngsters may also be aware of this. But you'll find a small group of people who are Tibetan who may not be aware of these. But definitely these are traditional way of measuring the length. And length is called ringse. Length is called ringse. So today we have learned some new words here. Chitang, which means generally. Tumo Mayimpa, which means uncommon. Ringse, which means length. Seshi, which means unit of measurement. Then all of these 4 units, sor kang, tokang, trukang, kombakang. And then these 2, chile and mi, which means kilometer and meter. And then this may be a new word, dilju, which means to explain. Normally you have heard this other one, other form of the same word, which is dilshe. Dilshe. So dilshe and dilju are similar. And then probably all the words here are familiar to everyone. So these are all familiar words. So these are some of the words that I would like everyone to make a sentence on, so that we can see how many of you have understood these words, and then if it also helps with the sentence structure. So if you ask me like, how often can you use this in Tibetan conversation? Like, it's always, if it has to do with, if it definitely has to do with things like measuring the length of something, then we will use these things. And most of the people who you have to tell them about these things are already in, they already know these words, so you can use it in those scenarios. Okay, now we have two preposition of place. So the first preposition of place that we're studying today is middle. Mhm. Kongnichinu is one individual phrase meant try as much as possible. Yes, to try to to one's best capacity or capability is kongnichinu. Kongnu means as much as I can. Jinu means how much I can. So as much as I can and how much I can. So uh, lasso. So we have two preposition of place. That is, sorry, we have one, but we have two words which means the similar, which has similar meaning. So the preposition today is middle, which is u or par. So u. So so there are two ways to actually write this particular. So some accept this particular spelling for the central Tibet, which is fine, but uh, there there are some who tend to write it in this way. I don't know if this is correct, but there are some, which means the top or the head of the entire map of Tibet, or the place from where you enter the Tibet. So U, which means central or center, or of the Tibetan country. So therefore, it's the central Tibet. Yuzhang. So it also means middle, and sometimes it also means center. So depends on the usage. And then par, which means middle. So u and par means middle. So the first sentence, namke usu nimashar. Namke usu nimashar, which means the sun shines in the middle of the sky. Namke usu nimashar. And then the second one is Koni parla ngayu, which means I'm in the middle of both of them. So for example, if you had a sitting arrangement, so you can say that Koni parla ngayu, which means I'm in the middle of them. Or if you want to say, if you were sitting in a line, then you can say Koni parla ngayu, which means I'm in the middle of them. So u or par means middle. Rini parla, which means in the middle of two mountains. In the middle of two mountains. So these are, so this is the preposition which means in the middle or at the center. So we will actually talk about center later, because this is a usage in which it actually depicts as a word that means in the middle. Then we have sur, which means corner. So not in the middle, but at the corner. Kangbe sulla chizang shitu. There is a bird's nest at the corner of the house. there is a bird's nest at the corner of the house. Kangbe surla chizang shitu. Then the second one is Zinche sur shila henu yebe pejo tongro. There are dustbins at the four corners of the classroom, so please use them. Okay, so these are the two prepositions. And today we have already also discussed the unit for the length. So these are the two things that we were going to discuss as for the lesson of today. And then now, before we go for the memorization and question answer, let us have a small clarification on yö. So not this one. So we had this word yö. So what does yö mean? So yö has actually more than one usage. We have understood one thing is that yö is also used as a word, as a word that shows that something is residing somewhere. So one usage of yö is to show that something is residing somewhere. But when we have to say that something is being possessed by someone, then we use yö too. So when we have to use it in the context of possessing something, if we have to use it in the context where we say that, oh, this person has this or this person has that, so as a possessing, to show that or to show possession, then we understand that yö can only be used for things like can only be, so if we want to say that someone has someone has this of possession, we say right? We have already discussed that. In that case, it is yö, right? And this will be the case if it will be the third person. So this is for the second person. So yö, when we talk about possession, is when we talk about possession, yö is always used with the first person and the second person, the listener and the speaker. Whereas if it's a third person, either pronoun or the third person then subject, then we use the word tuk instead of re. Sorry, instead of yö. So this is the difference between, so this is one of the usage. So we must understand that this is just one of the usage. The other usage of yö is to show that something is situated at somewhere. So to show that something is situated somewhere, for example, There is a tree in front of there is a tree in front of my house. We can also use it like this. And then interesting, isn't it? Now we understand that there are three ways to there are two ways to write this same sentence. One with the usage of re, and then one with the usage of tuk. So you'll be saying, okay, you'll be saying, oh, in that case, why is it that you're using yö and tuk for the third person? Shouldn't it be yö for the first and the second person? And then I'll say that definitely. But in here, instead of the actual word that talks about the possession, or what we are doing is we're actually using this as a term that confirms the situation or position or the confirmation of something being somewhere. So the thing is that the difference, as you see, is that in one case, we see that it's talking about possessing, and therefore it has to be used in that way. But when we talk about something that is being situated somewhere, we normally use you as not the actual term that talks about having, but as a term that talks about being or situated. And in those terms, we have re that follows it. Yes, so that is the reason why even if it were the third person, it doesn't matter, because we have this not as a term that is used in order to show the possession, but as this situation that something has situated. But then the other thing here is that now that's not only the case. You may see that in these two cases, that's the same case. It's showing the situation of something, that is the trees in front of the house. And then we are still using the same rule. So why is it that we don't use the same rule here? And the reason is because of this companion word, or this being the actual word that shows the confirmation. And we know that re can be used with all of the three. That is the reason why we have it here. So this is the use. And then another clarification. So yesterday we had this one sentence that says, in this case, we're not referring to the person. We're referring to this place, which is the residence. We're referring to the residence. And since residence is not a thing that is it's an inanimate thing, object. It doesn't have life, so it cannot have the designation of self. So it cannot be either third, first, or second person. So we can use you. So this is the reason. So this is a sentence that's not for the third person. So therefore, here we use you at this point. And that's just to show that something is situated there. It has nothing to do with the first, second, or third person in this sentence. So, okay, so this is a small clarification on the usage of wir. I think we had already covered it a few classes ago, right? So therefore, if we have more questions, we will do more clarifications. So make sure that you have questions, which is wonderful all the time, every time. So now memorization, and after that we'll have question and answer session if you have any questions regarding today's lesson. So if not, then we'll call it a day. And then the assignment for today, it's simple. You just have to make sentence on the word Chirtang, Tummaimpa, and then these two particle, these two preposition, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 here, and then we have 6 and 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we have 10 words. I'll actually send these words again in the group for the assignments. Okay, so now those who wants to participate for the reading, the text memorization. So let's see. Please choose number between 1 to 10. So please choose a number between 1 to 10. Those who are able to read today. You have to recite the Lobchung Tai, the second one, first portion. Kawakara Katora, the first portion of that text. So for memorization. So you have to recite that. So okay, so I will be generating number from 1 to 10, and we know the rule. If it's your number, then you'll be reading it. If none of the number which appeared here is generated here, then the number 1 greater than the number that has appeared. That is, if it was 3 that was generated and your number was 4, then you'll have to read. Okay, let me generate it. 1, 2, 3. So it's 6. Okay, so today it's Petuniela.
Lasso, Gadinche.
So
Kawaka. I start? Can I start?
yes, please. Please start. Yes, please.
Gokidukam.
Now, Kuruto, are you able to hear me?
Yes, yes.
Lasso. So
Kawakara Katora. Kawakara Katora. Kachikame Kakyangin. Kalekange Dakatang Kamekalo Bakao. Yowikani Rakatang Yo wikani rakatang kikara sakat. Saka wo.
Yes.
Lamso kakpa bakakla. Lo yikani sakayin ne sotu kang baka ne sotu kang baka tong.
Pakantang.
Kang lashi kang ra kang ngo.
Yes. Okay. So wonderful. So thank you for memorizing it. And so we've already said that we'll have this for 1 week. So I will be sending the portion for today, for a new portion for the Chibetai. Now it will be back to Chibetai. And then also for the Tree of Excellent speech that I have to send. And please continue memorizing these. And as I send a new portion, I will do the same thing that I did with the previous portion. I will explain it, and I will read it, a fast one and a slow one, so 2 audio, and then I'll explain the portion with the definition, and then probably I will provide one or two sentences. So thank you, Petuniela. So now the questions. Does anyone have questions regarding today's lesson? So any questions regarding today's lesson?
Gana, I have a question about the usage of ye.
Okay.
Like you explain now, it's very clear. You explain like if the inanimate things other than self.
Yes.
So you said we can use ye. It means we can use only ye, or we can use ye or yore.
Okay.
Or do.
So you know that so this is a concept that I was actually going to stretch it into a different class in grammar, but let me also explain it to you. So the thing is that whichever that is in the present, it belongs in the. So this actually may or may not make a very direct sense, but the thing is that whichever that belongs in the present tense, meaning that if something that exists in the present tense, that automatically belongs to the first person. So whichever that belongs to the past tense, it automatically doesn't belong to the first person in that context. So it's a somewhat complicated concept when you say like, oh, how is it that the present belongs to the first person, whereas the past doesn't belong to the first person? And we will discuss about this later in more detail. But the thing is that the existence of the residence of His Holiness is currently at Dharamsala, right? And since it's at Dharamsala, it is present tense. The existence of this residence is in present tense, thus belongs to the first person, thus you can use ye. But if you were to say that it used to exist there in Dharamsala, or if you wanted to say that I saw it at Dharamsala, meaning that your confirmation is, instead of being present tense in a present perfect tense, if you were to say something like, oh, I saw it there. So meaning that when you say I saw it at Dharamsala, it was there, you know? Or last time when I visited, it was there. Because when we say that it was there when I visited last time, it doesn't confirm the fact that it is existing in this very moment. So therefore, it's in the past. The confirmation of its position is in the past. And in those cases, it doesn't belong to the first person or anything that's related to the first person. Thus, you use tuk. So if the confirmation of the position or confirmation of confirmation of where the thing is situated is in present tense, then it has to do something with the first person, and thus we can use yö. If it doesn't have to do anything, sorry, if it is something in the past, it has nothing to do with the first person, and thus it becomes tuk. And when you want to say re, then definitely you can use it here with the first person, because re is just an addition. So less so. I hope that this makes it clear when to use it, even though if it's in the context of inanimate things. Now the concept of I and others, you know, self and others, arises from the present tense or past or future tense. And this we will learn thoroughly under the gender science. If you continue with the grammar class, then you'll learn it in the gender science. So present tense is always self. Past tense and future tense is always not of this, not related to the self. Doesn't mean that everything doesn't mean that it's not related in the normal context of relation. It's just in the grammatical context of relation, it doesn't belong to the self. So therefore, you'll use a third person to make it seem distant. Whereas the current or the present thing, you'll try to make it seem closer, currently existing, so closer. So yes, so this is when if it's in the present tense, you, even if there's no first person or second person, you. If it's in the past tense or the future, but in the future, you use a different thing. But in the past, if it's in the past, then tuk. So yö for present, tuk for past. Lesser. So we will go in more depth on this particular subject, but mostly when we will do it in the grammar class. But as much as it has to do with the conversation class, I think this definition is enough or less so. So does anyone else have a question regarding today's lesson? So does anyone have questions regarding today's lesson?
Kenla, if anyone else has a question, can I ask another question?
Definitely. So does anyone else have a question? Otherwise, Patiniera will be asking question. So no, I don't think anyone has questions. So please ask away.
It's just it's about still the particle used in the sentence for the verb. Its sentence is Dongpo rinse jalwa tsushing kang peche ki redam. And so it's written peche ki re. And for meaning used. So because we are used, yes, we are used to see a key with present or future. Key after picture.
So
and yes, to know what is the tense or what is the usage of this phrase kire, like this. When you use kire, is like
key. So key is a key and re. Definitely, there's no relation between them in this. And definitely, there is relation when you make the meaning of the sentence. But as like the relation between two names as a companion word, no, these do not come together. A ray is just a confirmation. It's a particle that shows a confirmation. That's it. Key is the word that what it does is that in this very moment, what it does is that it makes a relation between pechuche and re. So pechuche means to use, and re is a confirmation. It's more like, in this context, it's more like is, to be verb. So so if you ask me what's the meaning of kire, then definitely I'll say that there is no meaning of kire as being associated as just a single unit. But now when you consider the entire unit here, action and particle, and then confirmation. So chekire means is used. The entire phrase chekire means used. So that unit, which is che, ki, and re together, it means used. So, but yes.
For example, by example, if we want to say this is eaten usually in the morning, on the morning. This is eaten usually on the morning.
This is usually used in the morning.
Eaten, yes. With another verb. We say choque pas dit s'acquirer. We say like this.
Yes.
Saïre.
Oh, sorry, saïres. Yes.
Okay. So.
Yes, you can say. And this another one that has been written here is chekintuk, right? Which is used with the present perfect tense, as well as in some cases it can be used as present continuous. It can be used as continuous form. So progressive tense can be used as progressive tense as well as perfect tense. So you can say chekintuk or chekin retam or chekintuk. Chekintuk is more like saying, oh, they are using it, you know, so it's not a question. Okay, so now if no one has any questions, we will call it a day. And the homework, I will send you the words, each of the words that you will have to make a sentence. That would be the assignment for today's class. And yesterday's, I think I haven't sent the assignment for yesterday's class. I think so. Yesterday's class was on the yesterday's grammar class we had on the recompound particle. I think I asked you to make example questions, example sentences, but anyways, I'll make a assignment for that too. And then for the basic conversation class, you'll just have to revise all of these words, make sentences, and then send it to me. And I think this is it for today. And I will see every one of you on Thursday for the grammar class. And if you have any question regarding grammar, definitely post it on the group. It's very beneficial to everyone. And so this is it. And thank you very much for joining in. And I'll see you on Thursday. Lasso.